Hey guys, welcome to That Florida Feeling. How is everybody this week? First of all, I can't believe there's already a name storm in the Gulf. It is literally the 2nd of July, June. I don't even know what month it is. June, 2nd of June. And really? Like you couldn't even wait like a month? Oh well, just getting some rain, but no time to start complaining like the first of the season. By the way, I hope everybody is at least taking precautions and starting to stock up just in case we have another year like last year. Last year was pretty brutal. Thanks to everybody who participated in the quizzes, questions, polls, not just this week, but genuinely for the last 2 years. This is the official 2-year anniversary of That Florida Feeling. I looked today, it popped up in my memories, and this was it. This was the day that we launched the podcast. I have a lot of people I need to thank. Probably some I'm going to forget. Matthew has been amazing. Mary Kay, who inspired the actual podcast name. Jamie and Ree, who really pushed me to do it. People like Florida Men on Florida Man, who answered all of my random questions. And Mr. History Podcast for getting me, into podcasting. And new friends that I've met along the way. My Instagram friends. You guys know who you are. I'm not going to give away your names, just in case. But you guys know who you are. The people who reach out on me on Twitter. I just had somebody, the Keb, at Twitter. He reached out. Awesome guy. Native Floridian. Great to meet you. The podcast has brought me so far through a lot of things. And you guys have been there with me through the ups and the downs. I go back and I listen to my first episodes. And thank you for y'all who have stuck with me. Those are kind of brutal, listen to at times. When we got a theme song, thanks to Matthew. We've had some awesome interviewees on the podcast, and I really appreciate that, and I've got a lot more. So I thought I would just take this time to, first of all, say thank you. I couldn't have done it without you guys. You guys have been amazing. So, first and foremost, thank you. The podcast wouldn't be here without you guys. And I'm just going to tell you how I feel about the last 2 years. I ask you guys a lot of questions. I don't usually answer them myself. So I'll spend this podcast telling you my favorites from the podcast. I was so nervous when I put out that first episode. I didn't think anybody was going to listen to me. And it still blows me away that you guys took the time to listen. You guys take the time to interact, to give suggestions, to give topics, to give feedback, to review. And you guys are simply amazing. I can say that going back and listening, one of my first favorite episodes that I got to do, though, it's a tie between theme parks and Publix. Talking about Publix was fun. Publix is one of those, everybody knows Publix in Florida. Publix is moving out of Florida. It's been moving out of Florida for years now. It's growing. But there is nothing like a Florida Publix. You go to the Publix in Georgia, it's not the same. You go to the Publix in Alabama, it's not the same. You go to the one in Tennessee, you actually question if these people even actually work for a Publix or have ever even been to one outside of Tennessee. It's not the same. You walk in, you have that huge scale, and you know what I'm talking about. And I've seen people weigh themselves, weigh their kids, weigh their luggage. Anything and everything happens on that scale at Publix. That's the first thing. The second thing is you know you're going for that pub sub. And you know it. And the combos with the chips and the sweet tea. Oh, you know. And of course, after you get your pub sub, you got to go to the bakery. A lot of people like their cookies. I, for one, just love that cake slice. You can find marble cake there. I'm a huge fan. You can also find yellow cake with fudge icing. That's a elementary school thing to me. And you just go and you get that, and you get your pub sub, and then you just walk to the beach or to the park, and you pray to God some seagulls and some egrets don't come around, and you just enjoy that. That's just that's Florida. And of course, as you're sitting there eating your pub sub and waiting to eat your cake by the ocean, you smell the rain coming, and you know you got about a 5-minute window to get back to your car or inside, and you know it's going to pass in 5 minutes. But that was fun to talk about with Publix. Was that Publix truly is Florida, and it is a true Florida gem. Mr. Jenkins founded it so long ago, and it still stands to this day. So that was one of my favorite early episodes. And also the history of the theme parks. That was really cool. I do have a background working for theme parks. I did work for Disney World. Yep, I'm one of those former cast members. I know that a lot of people like to hear all the fun stories about being a cast member. And maybe one day, if you guys think that's a good idea, I'll turn that into a podcast. Because, buddy, do I have some stories, especially working in the Magic Kingdom. But that was fun. It was fun to see just how many theme parks tried to make it in Florida. Some made it. Some failed. Some, actually competed with Disney there for a while. The Ringling Brothers, their theme park, it competed really well for a little bit right outside towards Haines City, which is really like 30 minutes from Disney. So the fact that it did so well for the time it did is kind of truly amazing. But it was really cool to see like forgotten theme parks or where the theme park ideas came from, or even Cypress Gardens that's now Legoland. That was a fun episode. It was a really good look into old Florida. And I think that's some of my favorite topics is talking about the nostalgia of old Florida. Although my old Florida, I started going to Florida in the 1980s. There's my age. Enjoy it. And so, I don't remember the true roadside attractions or the true, I still see the orange stands on the side of the road. You can still see those today. In fact, Alice Farms in Fort Pierce is probably one of the coolest nostalgic throwbacks to a Florida roadside attraction with the oranges and the tangerines, and you go and they have a little food stand, and it's so cool. It's by a canal off of a highway that I think Amazon has a thing on now, which doesn't surprise anybody. But it's a cool roadside attraction. So those are some of my favorite episodes, are definitely the ones where it talks about, the roadside attractions, the random hotels, like the one in Key Largo where you can actually dive and stay underneath the ocean as the days go by. And speaking of that, have you seen that professor is trying to break like this massive record for being down there so many days? And he's actually broken one record and he's still down there. But I thought that was really interesting. If you're interested, it is in Key Largo. I cannot think of the name of it right now, but it's a really cool hotel. If you like to scuba dive, definitely check it out. You get to stay underneath in a little capsule, and they bring you pizza, and it's just a really cool little Florida, not really roadside attraction, more like a motel, but it's a really cool little area. So that's and it's really been fun to get to tell you guys about these cool things in Florida. The state parks, I know I've done quite a few of the state parks, and those seem to get a lot of hits because that's a fun, very minor expense thing that you can do and stay all day, and they're clean, and there's just kind of something for everybody depending on where you're at in the state parks. You can scuba dive in some, you can ride horses, you can kayak, you can lay out on the beach, you can walk a trail and feel like you're probably 30 minutes from Orlando. And so the state parks have been a really, really fun one as well, especially adding to my own Florida bucket list of places I want to go and things I want to do and things I want to see. And the state parks are definitely up there because they really do kind of allow a cheap adventure into, the history and the nature and the beauty of what is Florida. So those have definitely been fun. One of my favorite interviewees, of course, Matthew is on here pretty regularly at this point, but I had fun interviewing Christina from I'm never going to get that right. Still to this day, Seaside Seabird Sanctuary in Redington Beach. It was amazing to get to talk to someone who has such a love for these birds that you literally see just every day. You just walking down the road, oh, there's an egret. Oh, there's a sandhill crane. Oh, there's a pelican. And you kind of get used to them, but these people understand that, they're natural wildlife, they're out there as well, and they get hurt, and that they need a place to rehab or to stay, and that's really what these people made their mission to do, was to go in to help these birds and to release them if possible. And it was amazing to get to walk around that property. It's totally free to go in, or it was at the time I interviewed her. And they have so many birds, and they're doing consistent improvements to keep them up, so that the birds are comfortable, that they have enough room, as they keep intaking their people. They have a whole hospital set up. It was amazing. And it really did bring to light that, like, part of Florida isn't just the people and the tourists, it's the animals too. And getting to see the nature and the wildlife, and how it's our responsibility to keep the oceans and the beaches clean because that's where they live, or the forest in the middle of the state. And it was really cool to get to talk to her and to see someone's passion in Florida for helping the native wildlife. So that was definitely one of my favorite interviews. Of course, I've loved having all my friends on here. Another one I thought was really interesting was having Mallory on. Mallory came on as a newbie Floridian. She'd only lived in the state for maybe a year or so. And she talked about the changes that people face when moving to Florida. And there are changes. I can tell you that there are a lot of them. The getting the tag, the $900 for 2 cars to get your tags in Florida came as just like a sticker shock to me when we moved, and that's been 10 years. It was 2013. So, talking to her and getting her insight on just the changes, the people, the food, the weather, what you expected or didn't expect. And so it was really fun to hear someone else's opinion on how they felt about their move to Florida. And of course, me and Matthew talked about our move to Florida. That's actually my most listened to episode. Thank you guys. Is me and him just explaining, like, different parts of Florida are not the same. And there aren't things you don't expect, like the $900, or how you can live in Jacksonville and get a 2-bedroom for $1,400 in a relatively safe place. But you go down to Miami South Beach and you're paying that much easily for a 500 square foot studio. Not all Florida is created equal, and it was fun to talk about the different places and how, if you're looking for different things, this part of Florida may be for you, or this part of Florida may not be for you. So that's actually my most listened to episode, is moving to Florida with Matthew. So thank you, Matthew. And that was probably also one of my most fun because, you could just talk and you could just tell people, like, this is how it is. This was my experience. If you're considering moving to Florida, I think that's fantastic. But this is what I dealt with. And so hopefully you don't have the same kind of shocks as what we went through. I can definitely say that was probably one of my favorite episodes as well. I've done so many, and I know that I've reposted a couple because I had some ups and downs in life, as everyone does. And so thank you to you guys who've listened to those. I think my most researched episode had to be the Everglades. I researched that for 2 weeks before I even wrote that episode. That's also probably one of my longest, because the Everglades are so full of different animals and different history and flora and fauna, and just amazing. It's an amazing area that exists in Florida. It's so diverse, and so it kind of just takes care of itself. It's such a cool ecosystem in there. And so that was probably one of my longest and most researched. And I even debated on doing it because I'm like, am I going to do this one justice? I think my most requested was the metal detecting episode. That was actually a really fun one. It's the one that I named Beep, Beep, Beep. And if you've metal detected, you know what I'm attempting to do. Not very well, but I did it. But that was my most requested topic, was actually metal detecting in Florida. And I'm not going to lie to you, I had done it maybe once, I had seen it, but I did not realize how much went into it. I guess I just kind of thought that everything in the state was the same, but no, there are places you cannot go. There are places that if you go, you will probably get arrested, which is great. I think it's great that they are obviously protecting the parks and the national parks and the features and things like that. I just did not realize how many rules and regulations there were. If it's over 50 years, it's the state of Florida. I'm sorry, if I find Spanish gold, that is hard not to just be like, look what I found. So it just surprised me what all went into metal detecting. And that was really cool. I didn't realize how many people were into it. And it's It's apparently something that's super popular. A lot of groups in the state meet up in different areas, so if you are into that, check out the Beep 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 episode and see if there's a group for you or if it's something you want to get into. There's a lot of places you can rent things. I can say that I have learned a lot over the past 2 years. I've met some amazing people. I have a lot of stuff planned for the next year, the third year. I am looking into merch. I know I've said that before, but I've finally found a site that I like, trust, has great prices. And so don't be surprised by the end of the year if there's merch floating around. That's my goal. My goal is to interview a lot more people and to get you guys looks into other parts of Florida. Definitely going to eventually touch on some sports teams because, I mean, who knew that Florida was going to be a powerhouse in hockey? You know, go Panthers. I think they play tomorrow night. So, yeah, go Panthers. I hope they win. I hope they finally win. I know they've struggled since the beginning. So, yeah, I didn't know that, who knew Florida was going to be such a hockey powerhouse. So that's definitely one thing that we'll probably talk about. Of course, there's always the history. I know that some people have asked about the Seminole War, so that's on my list. I have a couple of interviews that are possibly in the works that I'm excited about. Local Floridians or people who are also in Florida kind of doing the same thing, kind of just loving life and trying to showcase a certain part of it. So we'll see what the third year brings. Of course, there will be more polls and questions for me to get to know you guys. I love that you guys say hi. I love it. Thank you so much for reaching out and just saying hi and, giving me suggestions and feedback. I do appreciate all your feedback. Again, I'm going to beg for a review. If you have a second, I really, really would appreciate it. But thank you for listening to a random girl start a podcast because she was bored in the summer and has made it 2 years so far. I'm overwhelmed with the love and support. I love the fact that I think I've got almost 7,000 downloads or plays in 2 years. I find that simply amazing. So thank you so much, guys. If you have any suggestions for year 3, feel free to reach out and say hi. Post those memes on Facebook. I love it. You guys are creative, hilarious, and probably thinking the same thing as most Floridians in the group. So thank you for making that a fun, safe place for people to go and to kind of laugh at Florida and Florida Man. No Florida Man this week. We're going to keep this a fun one. Just a thank you. Check back next week, guys. Start of year 3. We're going to do some amazing things. We're going to do some fun things. You never know what'll happen. We have a lot planned. All right, guys. Here's to 2 years and many more. Thank you so much.